Hi, this is Abby and Mesa with the Heirloom Farmer here for video 6 of the Attainable Garden video series. I highly recommend you go back and watch the first 5 videos, otherwise this won't make much sense. If you have watched those videos and you're following along, I'm so glad you're here. It has been 2 weeks since our last video. It is now mid-May. We've had a lot of rain and fluctuations in weather, but I am back for this video. We're gonna do an update on the garden bed and plant some more vegetables. We still have the possibility of getting a frost, so I'm not gonna plant anything that is sensitive to a frost. If you watched the last video, you saw I lost some kohlrabi to a hard freeze, but we are well past our average risk of a hard freeze. If we get a hard freeze at this point, things are going crazy. So I am going to replant kohlrabi. I'm going to plant some more lettuce, plant some chard, and again, we'll talk about how to really maximize your garden space with the 4x8 bed. But I'm going to show you an update on the bed. We'll talk about some maintenance things, and then we will start planting. All right, so I am here with my trusty garden companion, Mesa, the ruppy dog. And this is our garden bed. You can see there's some grass trimmings on it because we just mowed the grass around it. But that's okay, that just feeds the soil. The lettuce here that we planted in the last video is doing great. I'm gonna let it get a little bit larger before I harvest it because this is head lettuce. And I do want it to get ahead, but you can start harvesting your lettuce really whenever you want to. And I've been harvesting lettuce from our other beds for several weeks now. So lettuce, again, you can start harvesting it really whenever you want to. If it is head lettuce, you should let it go until it starts to create that head and gets to the size where you harvest the whole thing. If it's leaf lettuce or cut and come again lettuce, you can start cutting the outer leaves whenever they get to the size that you want. Just don't cut the entire plant so that it can grow back. But as far as the garden bed itself, it's doing really well. One thing that could be done if you want, and I will probably do this later this week if I have the opportunity, is to just add a little bit more straw around the edges. You can see a few places the cardboard has been uncovered, and some of that straw is starting to get a little bit thin and weeds can come through. But it's doing really well at keeping the weeds from creeping into the actual bed, and that's the goal. But you can go through and you can add leaves, hay, or straw around that edge just to keep the weeds from coming in from the edges. And for weed management, what I like to do, again, is we have the compost as our thick mulch. We've put the cardboard down to smother the weeds underneath. But at this point, the best way to manage your weeds is to completely stay ahead of them. So I like to come in once or twice a week and just check to make sure that there's no weeds growing. There is some clover growing here, so I'm gonna pull that out and try to get the roots. But that looks like really the only thing growing in the actual bed itself. These are just clippings from the grass. Oh, here's a few pieces of grass here that started to grow. So I will just go through and pull those out, and when they're really small like this, they're easy to grow, easy to pull out. Next week, I'm going to show you another tool that I use for weed management, where you really come along the surface with sort of a hoe and pull or disrupt the weeds kind of when they're in their white thread stage. So that's before you even really see them. And then that way they don't get established. So we'll go over that more next week. But really, you want to just go through, watch for weeds coming up, especially again around the edges is where they tend to be the most problematic. If you do have weeds starting to creep in here, just add some more mulch around the edge. Otherwise, we're looking pretty good with our weed management, and that's what we want. So just again, this has been here for now like over a month, and those were the first weeds I pulled. So this definitely works with reducing your weed pressure. Now we're going to look underneath our cardboard again to see what's going on underneath here. You can see actually our cardboard is pretty much broken down already. Let me see, there's some over here that's still there, but you can see it's really broken down, and there's worms all through there. This is really a sign of healthy living soil, that this has broken down so quickly. Again, this cardboard has been here for just a little over a month, and it's actually almost completely gone. And you can see there's still there's some slugs. That's not great, but that's okay. There's still some roots of the plants that were underneath, but they're almost completely gone. And that's looking really good. That's what we want. So we're just going to continue to keep this covered, especially now that the cardboard is broken down. I may come in and add a little bit more mulch around the edges. All right, next we are going to plant. And to really maximize this space, we want to plant pretty closely together. We want to plant things that we're going to be able to harvest and then follow up with another planting, or things that we're really going to be able to harvest a lot from. So the lettuce we'll harvest here in a few weeks, and then we'll be able to plant a warmth-loving crop like our peppers right here where that lettuce was. We're going to plant kohlrabi next, and that has a fairly short growing season. So once it's harvested, we'll be able to plant something else where it was at. We're going to plant Swiss chard, which can be harvested all season long, and usually it grows so fast you can't keep up with harvesting it. So that's really going to maximize our space as well. And then I'm going to plant some more lettuce, which again, we'll be able to harvest mid-season and follow that up with something else. So these are some strategies that you can use to really get a maximum harvest from this space. All right, so I've got the lettuce, kohlrabi, and chard planted, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But I wanted to mention a few things. So right now, it is raining or sprinkling, and it's starting to rain. So normally I would water in the plants to help them get a good start. And I would normally try to plant either in the early morning or the late afternoon if it was going to be, or late evening if it was going to be a hot day, again, to really help the plants get a good start. But it's a cool, rainy, cloudy day, so it's mid-morning. I'm planting these, and I'm not going to worry about watering them in because I know they're going to get watered in naturally, and they're going to do really well because of this weather that they're getting planted in. They'll be able to get established in this nice weather before they have to tolerate some heat. So that's something that you can do to help manage your transplant shock. And you're gonna see I have these planted pretty close together because our soil is really good. We have all that compost. I'm not worried too much about spacing. You don't want to crowd things too much, but I know that these plants are going to get the nutrition that they need. So from that standpoint, I'm not worried about spacing, and we're really trying to maximize our yields. So sometimes you can push those spaces a little bit closer, and you're definitely going to see that. All right, so I will show you how I have things planted. If you're planting a dry day, though, I do recommend watering in your plants. All right, so I planted, you can't really see, but I planted 3 rows of kohlrabi. You don't have to plant that much if you don't want to. You can plant, 4 or 6 plants. We sell them in 4-packs, so if you just want to plant 4, that's fine. But I had some extras that I wanted to get in the ground, so I planted those. And then I planted 4 lettuce, Merlot lettuce, or leaf lettuce. And then I planted 4 of the chard. And those I do like to plant pretty close together because it keeps the leaves from getting ginormous. And I like to eat the leaves when they're small. So I've got that planted in. We've still got some space at the end where we're gonna plant some things in the next few weeks. And then we'll come back and start planting in after we harvest some of the lettuce and kohlrabi. So if you are gardening along, I'd love to see your gardens. Comment below if you have any questions, but I highly recommend that you try out this gardening method. The keys really are keeping it a small space that's very manageable for you, that you're gonna really be able to take care of and enjoy and not be overwhelmed. And you're also going to be able to devote the resources to doing it really, really well. And then from there you can expand. This also focuses on using a no-dig method and a deep mulch, which is our compost. And I think that these things are really key to having a successful garden space. All right, so I am now going to give you a tour of our garden beds. So if you want to stick around and see our other garden beds, I'm going to show you those real quickly. But I just want to emphasize, before I show you that, I want to emphasize that starting with one bed at a time can really be helpful for your success. Everything that you're going to see now has taken me several years to work up to. So that's a huge key to success, is taking your time, keeping it manageable, and focus on doing a space really well before you expand. Over here, I've got oregano down here, which I've been harvesting for several weeks already. And then all of our garlic is looking absolutely incredible. It was planted last fall and mulched with straw. And there's some broadleaf sage right there. These beds I think are 4 years old. They've been here a while. They're holding up pretty good, and they're filled with soil and then with a deep layer of compost, very similar to the bed that we've been doing together. As far as how they're constructed, and no dig, these just happen to have sides. Some lettuce there that I planted a week ago, and then creeping thyme, which I've also been harvesting some. Over here we have another bed of garlic because, well, we love to eat garlic, and some volunteer potato plants that apparently I didn't get all the potatoes harvested out of here last year, and they're growing. And although it's not ideal to have potatoes and garlic growing like that because they're both a root crop, I'm gonna let them grow and we'll get some free potatoes. Over here, this bed I just filled this year, and it has lettuce and onions in it that are all doing incredibly well. They look great. In fact, I'm gonna harvest some of this lettuce for my lunch. And then I've been succession sowing lettuce, so as I go down through the bed, you'll see the lettuce get smaller because I planted it later, so that we'll have a pretty good succession of lettuce available to continue harvesting throughout the next few weeks and months. And then down at this end, some of my carrots failed. I planted carrots here. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that they failed. They came up and I think some of them got eaten by slugs, but you can see I have some carrots in there. So I will probably try to replant carrots at some point. But the lettuce is coming along really great here. And our onions, again, are doing great. And then down here we've got more garlic. But because we have so much garlic, we've been harvesting and eating green garlic, which has been great. I've got radishes. We've got this wasabi radish, which we're trying this year. I've got these turnips here. You can see there's a little bit of pest pressure. These are probably flea beetles eating those, maybe slugs, but I'm not worried about it. These plants are gonna do just fine, even with that little amount of damage. Got cilantro here, which is doing incredible. Actually, someone in our local homestead group recommended planting it a few weeks ago, so I gave it a try, and it definitely seems to be doing well. Planted that early, so thank you for that recommendation. We got some watermelon radish. The thing with radish is you want to keep an eye on them because they'll go from looking like they don't have any root to being bulbed up and woody super fast. You don't want to wait too long to harvest them. So we got to keep a close eye on those. We've got lettuce here. I've been harvesting from this lettuce here several times over the past few weeks. We've really enjoyed that. Some of these plants I'll harvest from one more time, and then I will cut them off completely just because after a while the flavor does start to decline. But again, I've been harvesting. I planted these last winter and I've been harvesting off of them for weeks. I've got purple bunching onions there, which are doing really good. Some dill in the back, peas that'll go up the trellis, and then I've got spinach here, which again I've been starting to harvest from, and I'll continue to harvest from. And in fact, I'm gonna have some of that for lunch. So that's our garden beds here, and really by keeping it manageable, keeping it mulched, expanding a little bit at a time, and really focusing on maximizing your production in small spaces has been the most successful for me. There's no right way to garden. There's tons of gardening methods, but this is what has been working really, really well for me and making it possible for us to eat so much food from our garden. So I hope you find this video helpful. I hope you will follow along with the Attainable Garden bed, If you have questions, let me know. Again, you can plant whatever you want in this bed. I'm just showing you options to maximize your space. If you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, I hope and plan to be back next week with our next video as we do some more maintenance. I'll show you some weed management techniques, and we will get ready to plant some of our warmer weather crops. All right, thank you, and God bless.